Good evening, my name is Sarah Jane Mathers, and for my mid-test today, I'd like to present to you about asking questions. During this presentation, I'll talk about how to understand yes and no questions and short answers. Also, understanding yes and no questions as information questions, how to use where, why, when and what, also how to use who, whom and what. I'll also talk about how to use what plus a form of to do. Questions that have a simple yes or a no as an answer are called yes or no questions. They could also be called closed questions. If you can imagine someone closing a door, when the door is closed, there's no more opportunities for you to continue the discussion or to get more details. Be, do, have, or a modal verb must be included when forming a yes or a no question. The format of verb, subject and object is used to form yes and no questions. However, there are some rules. The first being, if the main verb is to be, we need to simply invert the subject and the verb to be. For example, in these sentences here, you can see the yellow, they, and are in pink have been swapped around in the examples. Now, in the second instance, if the sentence includes a main verb or another helping auxiliary verb, invert the subject and then the helping auxiliary verb. As you can see, they and are in the first and the second examples have been switched or inverted. Then we come to our third and final rule, which is a lot more complex. We use this rule when our sentence does not have the verb to be in it and there is no helping or auxiliary verb. Furthermore, it will change depending on if our sentence is present or past tense. If the verb is in the present tense, we either add do or does, and then we put the main verb in its base form, as you can see below. We've added do and does in pink, and the verb in green. Now, however, if the verb is in past tense, we add did, and then we add the verb in its base form. As you can see, the question word did added in pink, and the verb in its base form, discover, in green. I'm sure you've heard of the 5 W's and the H. Don't forget their friends whom and whose. These question words are words that we use when we want to ask an information question. As in their name, the questions are asking for additional information. By nature, by choosing one of these, who, what, which, when, where, why, how, whom or whose, the person has to answer with more details. For example, when do you finish college? Next year. Who will finish college? He will finish college. Where will he finish college? He will finish college in Indonesia. Why will he finish college? Because he has already studied for 4 years. They are just a few examples of how we use information questions. There are two ways to form WH questions with auxiliary verbs. We usually use the form of WH question word plus an auxiliary verb such as be, do or have, followed by the subject and the main verb. We could also use the WH question word plus a modal verb followed by the subject and the main verb. So how do we use where, why, when and what? We use where when we want to ask about a place, and we use why when we want to ask about the reason for something. We ask what when we need to know about the time, as in the time on the clock. However, we use when we want to ask about time with no particular time expression. How do we use who and whom? Who is used when we're talking about a subject who is a person. However, whom is used when we're talking about an object, but that object is a person. Whom is considered a very formal term and is very rarely used these days. Most people will just use the form who instead of using whom. What can also be used either as a subject or an object, however, when it is not about a person. There is no simple rule or formula to memorize when asking questions about activities. We use what plus a form of to do, for example, am doing, will do, are going to do, or did. For example, what are you doing? I am doing my homework. Will do. What will you do tomorrow? Tomorrow I will study before I go to the office. Are going to do. What are you going to do after work? I am going to go for a run. What did you do last night? Last night I did my homework. And that's the end of our presentation about asking questions. I hope that it's been helpful in your learning today. Good night.